Hey, welcome back, folks. This is Babbage
This
Native.
bag is getting kind of heavy.
We are hanging out in Long Dark, currently Broken Railroad at the maintenance yard. I think we killed most of the wolves at this point, again. And we are just waiting for our moose hide to finish curing up. It's almost done. And then we can craft ourselves a moose satchel, and we will be styling. It'll carry even more stuff. But yeah, so let's see, what do we got here? Got more wolves hanging out here. Just cold. How are we doing for arrows? Do some repair.
I wonder if I can drop any of this gear.
Okay. Okay, I guess we're just lighting our torch off of this. Perfect. Okay, we gotta grab some sticks. Oh, something else is dead down there. Probably a wolf. Where are the other crows at? Just this dude. Okay, we're gonna need more sticks. Oh, that's way over there. No feathers. Okay, what do we got over here? Ooh, another climb down spot. And way down. Guess we'll go back to the deer. Oh, so much to do. Moose hide's almost done, so as soon as we have that cured, we make a satchel. And we're good to go.
Come on, little fire. Perfect.
Okay, throw some more sticks on the fire. -8, -7. 6, 5, 4? Nope. 4. 3. 2. Not quite enough. Okay, one more stick. Working our way back. Really looking forward to getting this Miss Satchel made.
I need to find some place to escape this cold.
Yep. Let's see. So much to do here.
I'm not sure I can carry much more.
So close. Okay, let's see. What can we do here? Repairs. Probably need to make another fishing tackle. Probably should repair this guy.
Man, this pack is getting kind of heavy.
Yeah, figures.
I'm not going to be able to carry this load for much longer.
Okay, time to make this thing happen. Well, so many options. Okay, so what do we need to do here? First things first, we should make a new line. Should make some more hooks. We should make a moose satchel. 16 hours? Wow.
I wonder if I can drop any of this gear.
Okay, I think I have to do this first. Is fix this poor guy.
I'm not sure I can carry much more.
Oh. Got 9 hours left. And we're out of here for now.
Man, this pack is getting kind of heavy. if I can drop any of this gear.
Okay, good. Hey, thanks for the follow, An Equal King. Yeah, doing well. Been a quiet day. You like our red outfit? Astrid's dressed mostly in red today. Even the gloves are red. Oh, I guess if we got the mittens, that would actually be even more red. Not really planned, just what she's got. So, yeah. How was your day? I worked for most of the day. Had a few meetings. Worked on preparing a presentation, or really more like writing some tutorials for doing digital scholarship work. Just what I do. Looking for advice about food. Okay. What do you want to know? I've got 3,500 hours, I think, now in the game. Something crazy like that. Let me check and see what the number is now. 3,429 hours. Yeah, that's where I'm at. So I played mostly Stalker and Interloper, but I've also had a few Pilgrim runs and a few Voyager runs. Yeah, I know how that feels. Tomorrow is my last... How can I put this? So this whole... I went back to school to do a master's in library and information science. So I've already got previous degrees. I already did a PhD, and then I went back for another degree. So I'm kind of burned out of school, but I came back after a few years and did this again. And this past week was reading week, which means no classes and just an opportunity for people to work on their projects and their papers and things like that. So I just worked the whole week and had a lot of fun not actually working on schoolwork. And Monday, today was work, so no classes. Tomorrow is also work. And then Wednesday, it's back to my class schedule where I have 2 classes. And then Friday, I have another class. And then, the assignments become due, I think, for the last assignments are all due this next week. So it's coming down to the wire. We're getting close to the end. Hey, Roller. Good to see you as well. Nemesis, darling. Welcome in. Good to see you as well. Yeah, it should be fine. I think the worst of it is done. And I got a group project. After the stream, I'm going to spend about half an hour doing a proofread of another project. It's kind of interesting. It's a design project, and the 3 other people on my team are all actual designers. So they said, you know what? English is not our first language. We'll take care of the design. We just want you to proofread and write the copy for this thing. So it's like, okay, that's great. I can do that. That's nice and simple. Yeah. So anyways, there's a request for a poem from Nemesis, darling. Yeah, so if you are curious about why that is the case, I wear many different hats. I'm a writer. I'm the author of 2 books of poetry, a translator of contemporary Chinese poetry, former computer games programmer. I used to work in Los Angeles, doing educational and children's games. And then I've been a creative writing coach and manuscript editor, and I'm currently on track to become a digital scholarship librarian, which is basically a cross of a programmer, an academic, and a librarian, which is kind of what I am. So, the food thing is early game food, especially if you are doing Loper, if you're doing Interloper, is a real challenge for a lot of people. Yeah, let's here, let me take Astrid back to her bed, and then we'll go read the poem, and then we'll answer your question about food. That wasn't a large piece. Come on, here we go, big piece. Okay, Astrid. Okay, let's see. Got Astrid through the storm. It's cold though. Okay. Yeah, so we'll read a poem first. Do we... you notice I changed my background. I'm doing one of those video backgrounds for a change. Partly because I had a meeting earlier this evening with... I'm on a kind of board, I don't know, committee. It's a group of people that run D&D games and other games for the local community. And so, yeah, so I run some online games and others run local games. So we're going to read a poem. We're going to choose my random poem chooser to see what we get. Float. Okay, that's a nice short poem. We'll read that. This comes from my second book of poetry, Babbage's Dream, published by Sundress Publications in 2017. And we'll read this. This is a short poem. This is inspired by... The Babbage's Dream is a collection of poetry that revolves around the history of computers, the life and struggles of Charles Babbage, 19th century mathematician and computer pioneer, as well as modern programming languages and programmers and programming spaces. So a number of these poems take inspiration from programming terms, words that show up, or keywords, things that would show up in programming, either as a data type or as a programming concept, or as like a keyword. So this is float, which refers to floating point, which is a fundamental type used to define numbers with fractional parts. Float. Like a bell, or rather the sound of it opening, a silence that having told speaks again, suspended between states of incompleteness, a point traversing a numbered landscape. This country of small infinities is what we do with what remains. Bits of window panes, refracted light, what gathers in the torn leaves from the dimming edge of the red fields grown dark. Say what you will, the body is no more than the moon, a white trouser button in a pool of gasoline, a halo of ash and flame ascending the ladder of night. So this would be considered a much more image-driven poem. And really what I'm doing here is I'm playing off of the way that a lot of these programming terms mean something very specific within the context of programming, but also have a completely different meaning for someone who's outside of the world of programming. And I love sort of the double nature of language in this way, in which it could be something completely different. And a lot of these poems that riff off of programming terms, what I'm hoping to do is write something that simultaneously captures or embodies the concept that the programmer understands, while at the same time working as a poem that someone who knows nothing about programming will still fall into and get a sense of what's going on. And so float then plays both in terms of that floating sensation of hovering or hanging in the air somehow, as well as with the fact that it's a floating point and fractional and filled like it's a huge number potentially. And so that's what's happening here partly. But then the closing here, this reference to the moon, a white trouser button in a pool of gasoline, is actually a riff on a line or a quote from Kandinsky, a famous artist. Let's see if I can get that quote here. Yeah, so in the endnotes for the poem, for the book, it says, Float closes with a reference to a quote from the artist Vasily Kandinsky in his book Concerning the Spiritual in the Art. Everything that is dead quivers, not only the things of poetry, stars, moon, wood, flowers, but even a white trouser button glittering out of a puddle in the street. Everything has a secret soul, which is silent more often than it speaks. The first time I read this, I kind of fell in love with this quote, and I was haunted by that idea of the white trouser button in the pool, in the puddle, and the way it echoes the moon. You know, it is simultaneously its own thing, and then it also is a weird parody of the moon above it. So anyways, that's kind of like behind the poem, which we often do when I read. Yeah, so I mean, it is, you know, Kandinsky's basically saying is that we often miss these moments of beauty because we regard them as being insignificant or mundane. It's like, but he's saying like even the white trouser button in this puddle in the street, if you look at it right, you'll realize it's actually an echo of something else, that it is beautiful in its parallel, or it's beautiful in its own right. We just don't see it. We don't see these quiet moments of beauty. And it's just like they don't necessarily speak to us or yell out to us what they're representing, but somehow they resonate with us as being beautiful. This idea of sort of quiet beauty, or like this hidden or secret beauty that you chance upon, you happen upon, is something that runs very deeply in a lot of Japanese art aesthetic. Sort of a concept called wabi-sabi, which has to do with the beauty of broken, incomplete, or ruined things. Basically things that are mortal, things that break down, and finding there is a type of beauty that exists there, as opposed to sort of Western tradition, which often quests after immortal and perfected and complete things. You know, within sort of a lot of Asian art aesthetic, it's actually things that are not, that are somehow incomplete, broken, failed, or ruined. There is somehow still a sense of beauty in its ephemerality, in its in sort of that reminder that everything passes. Yeah, and I think that's true. It's like, I think I tell a lot of people, you know, as a writing coach, I say like the goal for what we need to do if we want to become better writers. How do you write like great poetry or great fiction? And the answer is you don't write it immediately. There's a lot of writing you have to do to get there. So great writers are the ones that persist. that having written a first draft or having written a first attempt at an idea, they don't give up. Sometimes it means scrapping the first thing and trying over completely. Sometimes you can work with what's there and keep chipping away at it, keep scraping away until suddenly you see what's actually happening. Not what you thought was happening, but was actually happening. The end result kind of makes itself appear. And you realize, oh, there's this thing inside of this mess of language that's more beautiful than I anticipated. And now I have seen it. I will work towards making that more apparent to the reader. Scheduling time to write a page? I don't know. I think like the writing of the page will generate raw material. But often it doesn't generate like what's really good. The editing revision process is where if you think about how films are made, we shoot reels and reels and reels of film, or these days like gigabytes of film, them together to tell a story through juxtaposition, through framing, through all these other elements, and then composes it together, creates a sequence out of those things that then tells the story more effectively than simply like starting the camera and letting it roll for the entire length of time. And although there are experimental filmmakers that will do that, that's actually really hard to pull off. But like if you think about like some of the great movies that have been made, a lot of times it has to do with how it's cut together and how it fits together. So. Yeah, I mean, yeah, D&D lore and plot is a great example of like how that plays out. Oftentimes we get so invested in building up the world that we don't leave room for something new to happen, or we're like convinced that everyone needs to know these things, and when in fact they actually don't. Yeah, I think editors vary quite a bit. I think you'll find that there are some editors and publishers who have a vision for what type of book they're trying to sell, right? And so if they see something that's close to the book that they're trying to sell, they will try to change the book into matching that, right? I don't think those are good. Versus like really great editors and publishers are the ones that like say, there's something really amazing happening in this manuscript already. And we're going to work together to help you get that final version. Sometimes they may see things that you don't see, and it's a good thing that they see them. And you sort of a new perspective on your own work, and you don't realize, oh wow, I was unconsciously working towards this and I didn't see it. I've talked about this before, where I had like a really amazing one of my first poetry professors when I was doing my undergraduate in computer science. I got permission to take graduate creative writing classes. Story in itself, but and so one of the professors I had was absolutely amazing. Not so much because he stood there and told us what we were supposed to do. No, it was because it would just be one question. He would say, what would happen if you change this to this? Or like, and it was just one word, he'd offer like a different word, or he'd say like, why? What's going on here? And then he would force us to explain it. And as we tried to explain it, we'd like say, I'm starting to see what I didn't see before, that this is something else. There's a larger pattern here that I haven't been paying attention to. Why do I feel like, do we run out of, what happened to our crampon? We can't wear these yet, right? Oh, we can. We did finish them already. Okay. Okay. So our crampons are done. Our moose satchel is done. We have carry capacity up to 40. Oh, yeah, and I think we had that question about, like, what to do about food at the beginning of your run. And I will say that there are a few things that you can prioritize. One, if you're in a region that has cattails, grab cattails as soon as you can. Grab all the tea that you can. Oops. Grab all the tea that you can. Okay, let's see how we're doing for guts here. 7, 9.
I'm not sure I can carry much more.
Tea, cattails. Look for carcasses, like deer carcasses. Occasionally you find wolf carcasses. If you're absolutely desperate for food, usually you can get away with cooking up a wolf. Like if you do find a wolf, and there's only a couple regions where there are dead wolves, but if you find a dead wolf, you can harvest the wolf and eat one piece, and you'll have a 1% chance of getting parasites. But it doesn't matter. The risk is the same if you eat a 0.5 kilo piece of wolf meat as it is if you eat a 1 kilo piece of wolf meat or predator meat, right? So actually it's to your advantage to like cook up a couple, even though you might be trying to level up cooking 5 by cooking small pieces. Cook up 1 or 2 large pieces, 1 kilo wolf pieces, wolf steaks. And if you're desperate, you can eat one of those and it will be like much more filling and you can stretch it out, with your 1% risk. If you're really, really struggling, then you might have to eat more. But usually you don't have wolf meat to eat at the very, very beginning of your run because you don't have any means to kill a wolf, and you're probably not in a region that has a dead wolf. Here's what you can do. If you find a frozen body, like a carcass, there are 2 things you can do. 1, find a hacksaw right away. Your top priority is when you're starting off, find yourself a hacksaw and find yourself a bedroll and find yourself matches, right? If you're doing interloper, you got to have those 3 things. This run, I went 44 days without a bedroll. I don't recommend it. I was having incredibly bad luck with the RNG. Got a critic out there. Incredibly bad luck with the RNG. And so I went through all sorts of regions and I found no bedroll. 44 days. That's a new record for me. Don't recommend it. But you can do it. You can go a long time without a bedroll if you know how to sleep. And where you can sleep and how you can sleep. Yeah. Yeah. So find a hacksaw. Where you guy? I think there's got to be a wolf out here somewhere. But a hacksaw will let you carve up carcasses even when they're frozen. So if you don't have a hacksaw, the next thing you can do is you can start a fire next to a carcass. And once the carcass reaches 50% thawed, you can harvest it with your bare hands. Now, this is really slow and not the most efficient way to do it, but if you're desperate, that's one way you can harvest, a carcass. Other things you can do. You can, this is trickier, but definitely doable. You can chase deer into wolves or lead wolves over to the deer, but get a wolf to kill a deer for you, and then approach the wolf with your lit torch and scare the wolf off, and he will run away and he'll abandon the freshly killed deer or rabbit, whatever he's just killed. once he flees, you can, if it's a rabbit, you can just grab it and run with it. If it's the deer, you can harvest that deer right then and there because it's fresh. It hasn't frozen yet. So that's definitely a strategy. And you just have a big fire going and then you scare off the wolf whenever he comes back. But that will work. That will work in terms of like getting food, a lot of food at once. Good example of that would be like AV Acidic Virus does a challenge where he spends as long as he can. He spawns in Forlorn Muskeg and stays as long as he can. It's called Keg Stand, and so like he's gone like hundreds of days, never leaving Forlorn Muskeg, which means an interloper that Keg Stand's like really hard. Like the base level of Keg Stand is like, can you survive 50 days like that? My answer is no, I can't survive 50 days like that. I was not able to do that. I could do the Stalker version, but that's because you could find a hammer and you could then craft a bow. And so that suddenly, you can forge, which means that you have access then to a knife and to arrows and, a bow and things like that. So that makes a huge difference. Yeah, I think I got to 500. Yeah, and like at that point, it's just it is really just rinse and repeat. You're just going to do the same thing over and over again. In that region. The wolf is back. Okay, so we've got all this meat on us. So the wolf is going to come and hang out here. Come on, buddy. You want to eat me. I got all this lovely meat on me. Can you regrow potatoes and carrots? No. So there's this trick here, which is you can shoot things through the window. There we go. Also, shoot wolves while they're howling. They get stuck in their animation and you can just pick them off that way. Yeah. That worked. But we broke an arrow, so we're going to go back and repair make a new arrow. So yeah.
It's getting kind of heavy.
Most things are not replenishable. So the tea does not replenish. Any carrots or potatoes you find are not replenishable. The only thing that replenishes is birch bark. The cattails also not replenishable, but they're on different cycles, so it is possible to go back through an area, and sometimes there'll be cattails that you missed that were, that came about after the fact, after you looted them the first time. But that's not usually the case. Outdoor fires. Yeah, it's like cooking outdoors, doing outdoor fires is riskier, but the fires last longer. So if you do an indoor fire, the fire will burn quicker, but outside burns longer. So one strategy that people use is they will camp in a cave if they have a bedroll or if there's a bed there. And they will place the fire in the cold part of the cave, just on the border between the cold and the warm section. If you walk into a cave, you'll notice there's a point, a deep enough cave, not one with a loading screen, but like one at the open cave. So you walk in, partway into the cave, you'll watch the temperature go up. And so if you put the fire in the cold part of the cave and then put your bedroll in the warm part of the cave, that fire will burn like a lot longer. And so you can keep a fire burning the whole night with less fuel than if you were to try to build it in the warm part of the cave. But it also depends like what kind of fuel you got available and how warm you are already. Yeah, unfortunately, you really just can't count on cattails respawning. It's just, I've heard rumors that there are some regions where there are cattails that show up late. So it's not like you missed them, they just weren't there before. But I don't know if that's actually true still. So. Or if that was just a rumor and that never actually happened. So. I like carrying cattails when I'm traveling between regions just because they do not have scent. And you can eat them right away. And you can eat one piece and stave off like starvation. In general, the amount of health you lose from starvation is small compared to how much you're going to lose from cold. So it's better to worry about staying warm than it is to worry about being oh, I guess we need water still too. Yeah, it's better to be warm than it is to be well fed. In fact, you probably can't really manage well fed in Interloper until after you've got the ability to hunt with a bow. Yeah, like in the early part of the game, the starvation tactic is a real one. It's you just starve most of the day, then eat, you know, like about 700 calories worth of stuff.
Yeah. That's a good one.
And then 700, 800 calories, and then sleep for 10 hours. And if you're low, drink a herbal tea before bed, and then you can recover more while you're resting. Yeah, cold and starving. But seriously, the starving part will get you so slowly. It's like 1% versus like the cold, which is like 4 or 5% per hour. It's like pretty extreme. Is it 4 or 5% or is it 10%? It's something ridiculous. Cold is the killer. You think it's starvation, but it's actually cold. Starvation, it's because Will and Astrid complain a lot of times about how hungry they are. But the reality is that they'll actually be fine. Oh, wait a sec. Did we get to 8? We did get to 8. So we have 8 pieces of coal. We could actually do another forge. We do one more forge. We've got 15, 16, 17, 18. We have 18 arrows. 19 arrows. Let's forge. Let's do a forge. Okay. I don't know if this is really the best. We keep wanting to leave, but we keep finding things to do, so I keep forgetting that we have enough.
Carry much more.
We have enough now. 8 coal. The hammer here. How are we doing for metal? No, we need more metal. Okay, so we're gonna have to use our hacksaw and stuff. Okay. Let's find some. It's probably going to take too long. 2 hours. No, not 2.5 hours. I'm not doing that. Need some more buckets or toasters. Those are like always easy to carve up. Yeah, the hat. You can always, if you can get a sewing kit, you can make yourself the hat and the gloves quickly. find another door. Come on. Some random crappy piece of metal that we could break down. Not that one. Oh, there's a lamp. We can break down the lamp. Yeah, the sewing kit, if you can't get the sewing kit, get some metal scrap and guts. And you can get the guts from a rabbit. And just like throw stones and kill rabbits that way. Yeah, it's the fastest way to get guts is from rabbits. Or from carcasses, you know. But the hacksaw really is like the thing you need as quickly as possible. It makes so much difference to have the hacksaw. With the hacksaw, you can also cut down saplings and start curing them. And then the faster that the saplings are cured, the sooner that you can have your bow ready. Okay. I think we have enough metal now. We've got 5 pieces of metal. That will do. That will do. Yeah, I mean, I don't sit around and wait for them to cure. I'm usually doing other stuff, knowing that it's going to take a while. Okay.
This pack is getting too heavy to carry.
Yeah. But yeah, the hacksaw is a huge thing. But getting that first hacksaw. Now, the good news is that there are more hacksaws in the world now than there were before. So I feel like you can, if you keep moving through regions and keep looking, you'll eventually find a hacksaw. Usually pretty quickly, depending on which region you're in. Oops. I just keep moving. You know, if I can take the guts with me and just the guts and the hides with me and just as long as I have matches and can start fires and have a torch around, as long as I have a torch and a stone, I can protect myself from whatever comes. Right? I can scare away. Well, not from whatever comes. I can protect myself from wolves. I can chase them away with a stone and a torch. You know, you drop the torch in front of you and you threaten with the stone, and the wolf will run away. And so with that in mind, you can you can carry guts with you, carry things that aren't fully cured, and then just to remember to drop them down in whatever cave or place you're in, so that they keep curing while you're traveling. But if you know that you're not traveling to a destination where there is a workbench or a forge, then there's no point in carrying the stuff that's curing if you know you're going to return back the same path. Like for instance, if I find, you know, guts or hides in Crumbling Highway, which is a region between Coastal Highway and Desolation Point, I don't take them with me into, how can I put this? I might take them if I know, how can I, if I know I'm going to be returning through Crumbling Highway, and I know that most likely I'll find more guts and hides in Crumbling Highway, in Desolation Point already, I may just leave stuff in Crumbling Highway and pick it up when I return. You know, if I really need it, then maybe I'll do something else. But, okay, forge. We want more arrowheads. Yeah. The guts will definitely attract more attention than the hides. The hides usually don't produce enough stench, enough stink to be dangerous. Okay. You start in Pleasant Valley. Let's see here. You have a ton of water and cattails. Yeah, Pleasant Valley has lots of match spawns, usually. So usually you're fine there. Yeah. Like, but definitely get to know your maps, get to know where things tend to spawn, and then realize as soon as they release that update, they're resetting all the spawn points for animals at least, and then possibly moving around the items again. We don't know. Keep us on our toes, right? Always guessing. Okay. Let's see, how are we doing for torches? Crappy torch. Yeah, I mean, the other thing to do is just, yeah, so, some cooking things, if they're dependent on, like, flour is heavy. If you do not have a skillet, there's no need to carry it with you. Just leave it someplace that you'll remember to go and pick it up. But flour's super heavy. There's some excellent... Okay, so we don't need our hammer anymore. We can ditch that. Yeah, I also do that too, which is I will leave notes. I will use my notebook my journal to take notes about where I've left stashes, as well as where I've left like guts or hides to cure, so I can go back and pick them up. This is especially valuable for super long runs. Or like when you kill a bear or a moose and you have like all this extra meat and all these guts. You're not taking everything with you. It's just not really practical. I've done it before. If you've got the travois, then you're good. But even that is kind of tedious to carry everything with you. Actually, I forgot to check. We have 4. Should we take some more? Make some more arrows. Is fishing still a good way to get consistent food? It seems to be broken. Oh, I think it might be fine in regular runs. It's broken in custom runs right now. Like you fish and fish and fish, you don't find anything in the custom settings. Which really hurt some of the custom run challenges I was doing because I could get no food hot. So there's more variety, but it is harder initially to be good at fishing. Like oftentimes you'll fail a lot. The easiest way, so my recommendation, if you want fast food, consistent food, build yourself a set of snares and go to like someplace like the Trapper's Cabin in Mystery Lake. And there's like a spot right next to a particular rock. If you can put 2 or 3 snares down there, every morning you'll get up and you'll go out there and there'll be like 1 to 3 rabbits snared up, depending on how many snares you have. You can just keep snaring rabbits for a number of days in a row before things might start to drop off. But that's a great way to get like rabbit pelts and meat and guts early in the game. And what do you need? You need like some of this reclaimed wood. You need a you need tools, and you need guts again. Yeah. Oh, depends on the rabbit, but I'd say usually 2 rabbits a day. You can get by on 2 rabbits a day. Okay. Get all these micro pieces out. I'm going to take that one with us. Okay, I think this is time. Early in the morning. We have meat. We have all this moose meat back at the hunting lodge, but we're not going to take it. We don't have a travois. There's no point in dragging it all with us. We have cooking 5, so we can eat like all these other guys anyways, so we're fine. Yeah, there's more meat there, but we're not taking him. Okay, so we've got a grand total of 9 guts, 1 maple. Yeah, honestly, we probably don't need... Yeah, we'll take them with us. Let's see. We'll take the deer hide with us. We'll take the cured ones with us.
Much gear.
Yeah, don't complain as much. Okay. It's time. Time to work our way back to Forlorn Muskeg, but this time at least we have a bedroll. Yeah, we didn't get our bedroll until we got to the hunting lodge. No bedroll anywhere in Desolation Point. Went to... Is that right? Yeah, we went through a ravine to Mystery Lake. No bedroll in Mystery Lake. No bedroll in Mystery Lake. It's supposed to be guaranteed bedroll. No, we failed. We couldn't find it anywhere. And then from Mystery Lake, we went to the climb down region between Milton and Mystery Lake. No bedroll there. We went to Milton. No bedroll there. We went to the Basin. No bedroll there. We went to Forlorn Muskeg. No bedroll there. And then we went to Broken Railroad. No bedroll there. Well, Broken Railroad. Finally, we found it at the hunting lodge. Okay. It's going to be cold. Probably should have warmed this up before we left. Oh, this is not well thought out. Yes. We need to pick up more sticks. At least we have some of that reclaimed wood. So yeah, early game snares are really valuable. Then after a while, you just realize once you can hunt, you want to do that instead. Okay, let's cook up some more. Okay, we're going to be safe here. Drop all our meat. We're not expecting any wolves to show up, but we'll do this anyways.
I wonder if I can drop any of this gear.
How do I separate my work thoughts from my writing? That's a good question. Well, I mean, during my work hours, I try to focus on... Oh, that's crappy. I try to focus on my work, my actual work. But I usually have, you know, either like a Word doc open or a notepad next to me, and I'll jot down any ideas that come to me, but I don't work on them during work hours, usually. I'm kind of lucky that my work right now is all remote, and when I don't have projects to work on directly, it's basically self-directed learning. They say, go work on, you know, we need your help. You know, learn these type of things because we'll probably need it in the future. And so I basically develop my own, you know, schedule of learning, things that I need to learn. So I'll follow some tutorials, and I'll come up with projects, and then I'll like do things to teach myself how to do. You know, how to, you know, I taught myself Python over the summer, then took a class on Python at the end of the summer and realized I'd already taught myself more than was in the class, so it was okay. Yeah. Done, probably can't do that. Separate, yeah. I mean, it's hard to do, I mean. DH Dunn's another streamer, often streams TLD. He's also a D&D player and GM, so. And he's a writer. He's a writer of fantasy and speculative fiction stuff, so, you know, definitely an interesting streamer. Yeah, we should probably drop a... yeah, I don't know. It's very beginning stages for that game. I will have to do a lot more work on it. I think maybe this summer I'll take it on as a real project and like fully flesh out an idea for how the game will work. I might do like I'll keep I think the first game will probably just stay with the Pythagoras idea and have like all sorts of silly like Python jokes built into it. And then having fleshed out the game engine at that point, I'll probably write a different game, something more robust. So let's see if I can find DH Done. Makes me wonder. DH Done. What's his stream handle? Yeah, if someone can find like DH Done. It's probably somewhere in my I look at my followers list. I know he's in there somewhere. but they don't make it easy to search through your followers list. Yeah, I don't know. So, I think he's still streaming. Sure. Pitch away. I'm going to have to start a new mini campaign soon. I promised I'd put together a 4-session campaign as a filler for... I'm on break right now from running a Sunday night game. It's been going on for, I think, like 16 or 17 sessions now. So I feel like, anyways, it's been really busy lately. So most of the players are students, and they all said, we're too busy right now. Not until the end of the, probably not until January. So I figured, okay, I'm busy, but I'm not quite as busy. Maybe I should be more busy. And so I was like, I think I'll start another one. We'll see who can join. Yeah, if anyone finds DH Dunn's streaming name, you can dump it into chat, because I couldn't. It was like weird. It was like, I thought it'd come up as soon as I typed in DH Dunn, but it didn't. So.
Freezing.
Okay. Trying not to lose too much. But we definitely need to get more tea stocked up. Alright, so when you're returning from Broken Railroad, you've got a couple options. You could go back this way. But really, you don't need to. You could go Spidey Man up here. Yeah, it should be DH Dunn, and I tried to, like, at him, and it didn't work. Made the world before 1400. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, that's... If you're writing towards, like, building off of existing lore and world, like, sort of campaign settings and war, yeah, you're... Go away. He's going to come back at some point. At this point, we're just trying to train up our archery. Get to archery 5. Ooh, that didn't work. We totally failed on that one. Where'd our arrow go? We hit one of the rails, and then we lost the arrow. Where did we find the arrow again?
Goddamn, freezing.
It was really kind of weird. Just bounced up into the air and then disappeared. How far did it go? Yeah, go away, go away. We lost the arrow. Oh, there it is. Okay, goodbye. We're not gonna stick around. Yeah, I mean, like moving to earlier times before certain things happen, it's always interesting, like a prelude to sort of the times that we live in, or the times that everyone else knows, the prehistory. Um, yeah, there's a lot of potential in that type of storytelling, that type of campaign setting. Like if there are certain, like I think there's also opportunities to take advantage of like certain geographic features or important, you know, yeah, features like volcanoes and craters and, you know, wastelands and things like that that may have sort of some um, partial explanation in the lore, but not fully developed. You can run with it, turn it into something interesting, give it an explanation, a true history as opposed to sort of the inherited history. You actually have them live the real history. I think a lot of this, like the amount of buy-in that your players have for this will largely depend on how big of a fan they are of the setting, right? So if you are running a game where people grew up reading the books and playing games in that setting, and that's what they live and breathe, then they're always thrilled to be able to step into that world again. But if you have like a lot of new players and they know nothing about the setting, then some of the elements that are cool or interesting in terms of like how they flesh out the world as you understand it may not necessarily resonate with people because they don't see sort of the significance. They can't see sort of the line between what didn't exist and what exists now. So
This pack is getting too heavy to carry.
you meet in a cave. Yeah. I've done like a short like 4 or 5 session game where what it is you the party wakes up in the ruins of an inn that has been completely smashed to pieces by a falling meteorite and partially burned, and so there's a crater in the middle of the floor, and there's a glowing green skull. Like the fragment of the meteor looks like a glowing green skull that remains there. And then out of the wreckage of the inn, there's a trail of flaming footsteps that heads out towards the woods. And they have the whole experience is traumatized or has left them with partial amnesia. So they remember very little about why they were there, other than they were like sent letters summoning them. So and I deliberately provide them very little information other than sort of this very obvious like trail that goes out to the woods, and I don't explain anything about the green glowing skull. And we just kind of run with it. And yeah, just run away. We're saving our arrows.
I can barely walk with this much gear.
You mean on the boat? Let's see. Warping the interpretation. Those who think they know meta. Yeah, I mean, like, I like doing that. Bending expectations. One of my favorites was I ran a longer campaign, which was an Isekai campaign. I had all the players fill out surveys, questionnaires in advance about themselves, and that were meant to sort of gauge their help me determine what their actual attributes would be, like D&D attributes. And so, Isekai is basically, stranger in a strange land, or portal, narratives. Basically, someone is teleported, or they die and they wake up in a new realm, and they've got memories of their past, and they have access to their knowledge, and sometimes they have sort of a whole game system present. But they're in this fantasy setting, right? And so that's what I did with them, is I basically built, based on their questionnaire answers, I built characters for them that were them as D&D characters. And they arrive, they're summoned and they arrive in this abandoned stone circle, a ring of stones in a wood. And they're not certain why they got summoned. I have a value, I put value in having, like, effectively what we refer to as a session 0. And sometimes it's an actual separate session, and sometimes it's just like the pre-game sort of discussion, like, while we're exchanging emails or talking in a Zoom call. We might not even meet in person to do it, right? Especially with online games, we just have a Zoom call. But I do believe the value of, like, of having those conversations about, like, what kind of campaign are you interested in? What kind of adventuring is fun? What makes, like, a game fun to you? Are there things you want us to avoid? And so, like, understanding sort of like where the lines are, where people feel comfortable, where people feel like this is a level of discomfort they're okay with, and then there are some things that are like, I definitely do not want to see this. And you don't have to ask them why, but I mean, sometimes it's because they've had past traumas with it. Like, you might not know that they lost, like, a sibling to drowning. And so, like, if you have drowning in your game, that may be a bridge too far. That might be too much. So you just work around it. But that session 0 concept, if you're not familiar with that, that's something worth learning about. So, do I need to include the players in my introduction? Like introducing the world to them? There we go. Just shut up. Okay, buddy? We're good. Play dead. Rolled over. Play dead. So, like, I try to get a sense of who my players and who the characters are, and knowing that, I try to make the world be something that's interesting to them, right? So it's not to say that the world revolves around them exactly, but the world does, the things that happen in the world have significance, impact on them. And the things that they do ultimately do have an impact on the world. Sometimes very significantly and obviously, and sometimes, they might not see it for sessions, and then they realize this one person that they spared, turns out to, maybe did more than survive. Maybe they went back home and they decided that they wanted to become an adventurer too. And then, like, several sessions later, you run into them on the road and they're, like, off, they're returning from their first dungeon experience. And then, like, several sessions after that, they get caught in a bad situation. They find the same person trapped in a bad situation. They rescue them. And maybe another time, something really bad happens and they don't make it out, and then the party's like, oh no, like what happened to so and so? You spend a month in weekly sessions of weekly session zeros. Okay. All right, let me get caught up here. I feel like I'm missing some of these comments here. Okay, so let's see. Oh, you all meet in the... Okay, so one of the things that I like to do, because I feel like it is... Instead of telling them how they meet, although sometimes that works. Like, for instance, I had one campaign set up, which was... I call it Bards on the Run. And it's basically everyone... We start at 4th level. Everyone has to have at least one level of Bard. And they're all in a band that gets framed for a murder they did not commit. And so they're on the run because of this. And then they have a choice about whether or not they stay in the city to figure out like who's actually responsible and try to get justice, or do they like leave town and then go off and try to do something else. But maybe their past is going to catch up to them. Someone's going to remember that they're this band of bards that's responsible, seemingly responsible for someone's death. And so yeah, so that's kind of a conceit, but we agreed on that. Like I said, I pitched the idea to them: is that what would you feel about doing a campaign which everyone was at least one level of bard? And they thought, oh, that's silly. Yeah, let's do it. So we ran with that. There are other times where what we'll do is we'll have, I'll say like, I want you to like think about the ways, we'll have an initial discussion about what each person's playing, as a general concept. And so like, oh, I'm going to be an Aarakocra rogue, right? And then someone else is going to be like, maybe someone else says, I'm going to be a Tabaxi bard. And then someone else says, I'm going to be a dwarven sorcerer or something like that, a dwarven warlock, right? Whatever it is. You got a handful of people and they're pitching their general like class character combinations. And so on that mechanical level. And then I might say, okay, so how do you think... so one of the things I will ask them I'm just going to show this because I feel like this is a really valuable tool. Let's see here. I think I still have this up right now, so. Okay. Okay, so yeah, I'll share this here. So this is, I'll post a link and then I'll also do a little walkthrough here. I'm so behind in looking at those chats. Okay, so here is kind of my homebrew setting sanctuary is this little website here, and then we'll show you kind of what I'm talking about. That's the getting started page that I have. And so let's see here. See if I can make this work. I'm going to show. Will this work? I think we'll have to do something else here. Okay, so let's see here. I want to capture. No capture. Yes. Okay. All right, so we'll kind of show this here. So this is kind of the so sanctuary page, getting started section. And what I like usually say is like, so the homebrew setting is something that is really, really flexible and able to handle people that want to run all sorts of different characters with different backgrounds. It's basically, you've got 400 years of people immigrating as refugees, as adventurers, as, fugitives, whatever. So you have like this one place where everyone keeps gathering to. And they all come to thinking they're going to start over again, but they always bring the baggage from their past, and it always gets complicated. And then corruption persists and all these other problems. So we have like this huge city of people. And basically what I tell people here when it comes to backstory, let's see, when I say backstory here, I tell people, I borrow this from Fiasco, which is a really great game that has a wonderful like character build up at the very start. And so they kind of suggest a number of these type of ways that people are linked together, because I think it's important that every character in the party has a connection, multiple connections with other people in the party. So that would be, and that some of them are defined as relationships, which could be equal, or they could have a power dynamic of some sort. Did they grow up together? Are they rivals? Are they business partners? Are they lovers? Are they survivors of the same conflict? Are they unknowingly tied together by a similar background? Like they're both orphans from the same orphanage, but at different times, or did they fight on opposite sides of a battle, right? Or there's a secret, right? There's something that they have as a secret, but this secret is somehow connected to someone else. Or the secret is like an opportunity for some greater role play to happen later on. Perhaps they've never learned how to read and have been faking it, right? So that's an interesting secret to have. Or are they afraid of the dark? They're a paladin. And the reason why they're always casting light is because they're absolutely terrified of the dark. It's not because they're that devoted to the goddess of light. It's actually because they're terrified. And so they keep casting light over and over and over again. And so like these things are ways to kind of define connections between people. So like that someone in that session 0, maybe you do talk about the fact your character has this particular secret, and then maybe someone else says, what would be really interesting? It would be really interesting if my character is partially responsible for why you have this hidden trauma or past, because I was actually the one that kidnapped you and left you in a cave for like 3 days, and then forgot about where I put you, and then you escaped, and you've been terrified of the dark ever since, right? Or there's some sort of need or motivation. You desperately need to do something, or you're motivated to do something. There's some object that maybe you stole something, but you stole it, as it turns out, from someone else's character's family, and they're actually on a quest to try to track down where that object went, right? And so there's a way in which you're now tied together. Or like you really, really want to go back to a particular place that you've been to long ago, or you've always heard about from your family or from someone else. And so this is someplace that you're trying to get to, and someone else may already have a clue about how to get there. So that's kind of like, broadly speaking, some of the ideas that I work with when suggesting how to set up. So I put the work on the players to think about how they're connected together rather than dictating to them, this is sort of the frame that you have to fit into. Unless they agree that they want that frame. Like I might say like, oh, you guys are all, how about if you all are, ex-members of the same circus troupe, right? And someone killed the circus ringleader, or the circus ringleader has gone missing and the circus has fallen apart. And now you're on the road trying to survive, but hoping somehow to get a clue about where your ringleader went. What the character will want in 24 hours of gameplay. So I asked them, if you're doing a one-off, like a really short, you don't ask the same level of questions. You might just simply ask. Like, I have, like, the distilled version of this is basically to say, like, why does your character leave home? Where are they going out in the world? As opposed to just doing the normal thing. Why did they leave? Why can't they simply do the normal thing? And then secondarily, why do they need to work with people? Maybe against their own wishes, but why are they traveling with other people? And so, like, they need to articulate that. And I think, like, that starts them on the path of thinking about how the party came together. And you have, like, this sort of brainstorming session where you start pulling together these threads. Yes, it's true. When they arrive, they may not know all the answers. But I think part of the fun is collaboratively coming up with a story that fits together all these different quirky parts about your the party until, like, you have some sense of, like, oh, this kind of makes sense how we got together. And then from there, when the actual session starts, the DM has some extra material to work with, to think about. I think I'm hesitant to run campaigns where, like, there is a strict narrative that has to be followed. And there's an expectation that the players or the characters are going to do certain things at certain times. And when they choose not to do those things, it throws the story out. Because I'm not writing a novel. I'm creating sort of a sandbox for people to play in. And there may be some larger things that are scripted about the world. And so, like, regardless what they do, there's still going, well, not regardless of what they do. If they do nothing, this is kind of the countdown to midnight model. But if they do absolutely nothing, at this particular point, there's going to be a raid on this one town. Or if they do absolutely nothing, the bad guy is going to send his forces to this other location, which will then trigger this next thing that happens. And so, like, there are consequences for doing absolutely nothing. But there's also sort of things that, if the party is making decisions and taking actions, it may actually interrupt the flow of those larger sequence of things, slow it down, modify it slightly, or cause a reaction. So you all meet in the whatever, I think, is just because of, like, you want to start in the moment. I think having them have a reason for why they're already together, that's what I'm asking them to when I'm asking them these questions. Otherwise, it's like, okay, you all happen to be in the bar at the same moment, but why would you keep traveling together? Yeah, I mean, if they do absolutely nothing, the world continues to go. There will still be problems. There will still be things that happen. And doing nothing will have consequences. But I don't make the plot dependent on them making certain choices. I think, like, the world is going to unfold in a certain way unless they do stuff. That's just how it is. They don't have to get along. I mean, they might grudgingly be working together. One party member might be, in charge of escorting, a felon that, escaped felon that is the other party member, right? It's like, they don't want to be there, but they are working together because somehow something's changed and now they're like in desperate need to work together. But I do think like there has to be a reason why, even if it's temporary, they've chosen to work together or to travel together. Because why would, otherwise, the first moment there's an opportunity to go a different direction, someone's going to go a different direction and abandon the party. And they'll say like, oh, but that's what my character would do. And I would say, yeah, based on how you define it, that's exactly what your character would do. Now roll up a new character because that character is gone. Yeah, so I think that's kind of the challenge, right? It's like I'm not writing a novel. These are characters within the world, but they're not my characters. I don't control them. They're going to make their own choices. I react to their decisions. I adjust. No, we're cold. We're really cold, aren't we? What I'm looking for with my requests. and these are writing prompts, really. And just asking them to think about who their character is, what makes their character tick. Not everyone wants to do this type of work, right? Some people will say like, I want to run someone that, doesn't ask a lot of questions, not motivated by a lot of stuff, just is lonely and wants to travel with other people. And that's good enough. That's good enough. Doesn't have to be like huge in every single case. But I've been in a lot of games where people do want to roleplay more. I've definitely run like campaigns where we'll go multiple sessions without combat. And people are perfectly happy. We're just having a lot of fun in these weird situations that emerge, challenges sometimes and diplomatic problems that show up in other times. And sometimes they cause their own trouble, That's all fine, Yeah, and then if the character decides to leave, I mean, the only thing I would say is, like, in a way, it's a waste of time. Because why did you spend all that effort creating a character that then does nothing, has no connection with anyone else, and therefore can't travel with them? And then, mechanically, logically, you're like down, one person to help you out in whatever the combat is that's about to unfold.
Oh, so cold.
Yeah, we are cold. We're going to have to sleep indoors in the cave for a while. Yeah, we didn't get to our cave fast enough. Good news is we got meat. How do I express my unique capabilities and personality in session 1 as a DM? You mean in terms of like, what am I doing in session 1? Yeah, I mean, it's true. Some people do just want to watch a little burn. I just don't find like I'm really interested in those type of campaigns where one person is like hell-bent on causing suffering for everyone else.
Carry this load for much longer.
I don't really like murder hobo campaigns, honestly. I find like eventually the whole thing falls apart and you just don't know why you're doing what you're doing. Let's see, how much water do we have? We've got plenty of water. It's kind of early though. I think we should wander up to the other side. But, so how do I communicate my unique capabilities? I think, probably my strength as a DM is in my ability to improvise descriptions of places and people, to to roll with whatever like weird choice someone comes up with. I will be able to adapt the world and make it work. And so I think that gives it the illusion that I've got everything under control. But really, I'm just making up stuff as I go sometimes. Yeah. So I'm like interested in. But for me, it's not so much that I have to. The spotlight's not on me. Let's put it that way. The spotlight is on the story. The spotlight is on the characters. Characters primarily. Players primarily. I want them to feel like they did something. They accomplished something. They messed something up. Whatever it is. But like it is something that they have some ownership over. And they see the consequences of their actions. They see the impact of what they're doing. The world responds to them. I think that's what people get excited about, is the sense that like my choices actually did matter. They made a difference. Small, big, they made some sort of impact. They also want to feel threatened. They want to feel like there is a risk here that things could go horribly wrong. So I always plan my encounters to be exceptionally difficult. But I then also leave myself room to make adjustments on the fly. Not because I want them to like never feel like they're going to die. But I might like say like this is sufficiently challenging, I don't need to add something else to it, right? So I might plan for waves of attacks and then decide not to do the final wave. You know, I think, oh, I think they've got enough out of this. You know, I don't have to push them all the way to the brink. But yeah, I mean, usually, if there is a combat, usually by the end of the combat, at least one of the characters has fallen unconscious, and in some cases, you know, two. And once 3, you know, I almost had a TPK. Yeah. And so, like, being able to gauge that, how can you make them feel like, wow, Neil didn't pull any punches, and then also, you know, so I didn't pull any punches, and then also that I also wasn't, it was never, like, an impossible thing to do. It was just really challenging. So like when they're victorious at the end, or when they flee by the skin of their teeth and survive, you know, that, you know, that's kind of the moment that I think is really enjoyable. Because they'll remember that. Yeah, they'll remember that. But like some of the things that people remember in the game, you know, are not the things that you would expect at all. It's like, and sometimes you have a plan for how things are going to unfold, and they don't unfold that way at all. So I guess we want to boil water here. We're gonna cook. Let's cook some herbal tea.
So tired.
Need to spend 23 hours. Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's all that's left. 0.5. We really beat up Astrid on this run. Walked around so
Too
cold.
heavy to carry.
Oops. Yeah. Ooh, it's after 11. It's past my bedtime. Not quite past Astrid's bedtime yet, though. Do we want anything else? No, not really. We don't really want anything else. I'm just going to cook
I can barely walk with this much gear.
Yep. If I'm not mistaken, I seem to recall that we do have a moose spawn up here too. We might be able to get a second moose. But we're exhausted and overburdened, so we're not doing anything tonight. Ooh. Need more torches. Ooh, so I hope in some way I answered the question, even with my long rambling response. I guess the short answer is that yes, in some way I usually do start them off in the moment altogether. But that hasn't always been the case. I did one campaign recently where they were kind of scattered. Two of them were fresh graduates out of a Adventurers Academy, just gotten their licenses. And another one was new in town, and another one was hiding out in a dive bar. Pretending to be asleep, but actually trying to pick pockets. And the two that were newly graduated from the Adventurers Guild had arrived late and missed their opportunity to get the best, quest postings on the board. And so they were left with only one option. So they take that one option, which is not really an attractive quest. But one of the characters is he's a warlock, but he's a jock, and he's from a wealthy family. And so they decide that before they're going to go on their quest to find this missing pig, they're going to hit a local dive bar and get something to drink. You're getting all these crappy ones. And so that's how I start them off. It's like... I started off with two of them, and then I brought and then the two of them ended up going towards the bar. And I kind of like wove that in. You know, I knew something about how the thief character, the rogue character, was thinking of where their character was, like in terms of a base. You know, I figured, okay, there's that dive bar. Let's figure out a way to get, you know, no, it was the other characters, the two recent grads that just suggested that they were going to go to a dive bar, and I thought, okay, well that's a good way to work in. That's a likely location where this other character is going to be. I checked with the other player and said like, hey, does that make sense? And it says, yeah, that sounds good. And then we kind of worked it in, and I kind of narrated in the connection, and then like I gave them each sort of a view from their perspectives about what was happening in that moment. And then something happened in the bar when they're like drinking, and someone ended up just sampling something that was really too strong and started projectile vomiting, and then that led to a lot of screaming. And then the cleric that was outside walking into town heard the screaming, runs in, you know, discovers this whole scene. They have to explain what actually happened, and like that's how they all end up getting connected together, you know. And you know, the rogue and the cleric are kind of desperate for a you know, an opportunity to find some sort of work in town. So they ended up working together on this seemingly ridiculous quest to find a lost pig, a mascot pig, for a local tavern. So. But yeah, it does have to start somewhere. And as they say, like in media res, like starting in the middle of something is often the most compelling way to get things going. Okay, we got some improvement here. Did I miss a request for dissertation read? No. Oops. Oh, we're still dead tired. We still need more sleep. Keep forgetting that we're not recovered yet. Oh, I was giving a free dissertation? Yeah, that might be the case. Missed the day when I cracked open some of those actual monster manuals, like the ones that I kickstarted, and some of the interesting like books that I ended up picking up. Is that what you're talking about?
I can carry much more.
Yeah, I wish I could have brought more of them with me, but I got some new ones that I kickstarted that were delivered to me since then. Okay. Anyways, we should wrap up. I don't see any moose markings, so I don't think we got a moose up here. Astrid's still pretty exhausted. Okay, let's, we've got all this extra sticks here. Let's see, what did I have? What did I show off? Yeah, I don't know if I brought as many of the monster manual type things this time. I have mostly campaign settings for things I haven't got around to running. Because I've funded a couple campaign settings that were really interesting to me, at least conceptually. I thought it would be kind of cool to run something. One's like set in sort of Mongolian nomadic tribe sort of era, where it's just the as Babbage stares off in the distance. But yeah, so it was campaign setting set sort of with the Mongolian horde. And so that was kind of an interesting one. And Silk Road, I think, mixture of nomads and Silk Road. And then another one. I can't remember what the other one was. There was like another setting that was really interesting. And then, yeah, I mean, I think my favorite book for running monsters is The Monsters Know What They're Doing, which I think it's a blog and then it's also a book. And that guy's really, really good at thinking through what different types of monsters could reasonably accomplish and how to play them so that they make sense. Like certain types of monsters do not have a lot of intelligence and therefore are motivated. When you look at their stats and you look at the type of monster they are, you can generally have a sense of like, okay, this makes sense that they behave in this particular way. But other monsters, like goblins and kobolds and things like that, they're small, they're fragile, but they're also, they work in teams. They know, because of their fragility, they know that they should run. They'd rather do guerrilla tactics of hit and run or lay a lot of traps. They do not want to stand and go toe-to-toe with you. And so, like, recognizing that when you run those encounters, you know that these are the type of monsters that avoid direct confrontation unless they have a huge upper hand. And they will do whatever dirty tricks they can in order to gain an upper hand. And then if things start going south, they'll just find a way to, they've always got multiple escape paths out of there. And so, like, and then if you're running something with like a spellcaster, the spellcaster has, again, sort of that heightened awareness of their own mortality, and lots of contingency plans and ways to summon, whatever their weaknesses are. They have all sorts of ways to counter those weaknesses. They have summons, they have, they have bodyguards, they have, they actually never physically are present, in the combat, but always interact from a distance in some way. So they may have various strategies, and the party has to find a way to work around those strategies. But yeah, The Monsters Know What They're Doing is an excellent book. If you've ever thought, oh, my combats are all starting to feel the same, it's because we're running every monster as if it were exactly the same monster, and they're not. They're completely different. And when you understand, what their mindsets are and what their concerns are and what their strengths and weaknesses are, and then play to them, you can turn combats into really interesting experiences and leave the players really feeling like uncertain as to what's going to happen next. They may grow to hate certain monsters that you think of as like on the page, rather simple, rather easy to deal with, but then played right are really a pain to deal with. Like any combination of wolves and goblins can be devastating with the exploitation of pack tactics. You know, like them granting each other like you know, advantage on attacks is a game changer, total game changer. Yeah, so definitely, like, there are ways to make that work. Okay, so it's late and I really should get to bed. So we're going to read one poem and then we're going to go raid someone, and then we'll see you all soon. Possibly tomorrow night. Let's see. I think I'm going to try. I might spend tomorrow night working on some papers, but we'll see. Okay, so what do we got? We got, oh. So this is letter 27, is that right? 17. Can't read my own notes. Okay. So this is actually from an unfinished project. Let's see if it's 17. Okay, so this is an unfinished project called Letters to the Unknown Wife. I started a number of years ago and totally ran out of steam and never got around to finishing it. Yeah, so these are all written kind of in a letter format, an epistolary form, addressing an imagined other who the speaker has never actually met, but has somehow fallen for. So I was kind of playing with this idea. What does it mean to fall in love? What does it mean to write a love poem in which the other, where you don't have a physical description of the other? And you kind of have to, I don't know how to explain it, but basically it was a weird exercise. But some of them worked out reasonably well. So this is letter 17. Pulled over at the side of the road with miles left to go, I rest at the far edge of your name and write. Outside the fields move dark with the memory of slow horses and you in the wind. Rain breeze low on the neck, stains the half-wound window and the empty seat beside me. I cannot sleep, but turn to the sky, wondering who else looks up at this hour, when even the stars have dimmed their lamps and crept back to their silent cells to dream. All night, this longing grows like a white grief laid in the wild grass, or the long shadow of fire against the world filling with coal-eyed crows and the sound of the river sinking out of sight. Okay, that was letter 17. Okay, so that was that. And like I said, it's really kind of like, how do you write something about someone who you've never met, in whom you have no name, but the idea of the person kind of exists? I don't know. Oh, from the Romantic period. Yeah. Okay, so let's go find someone to raid. Survey says who is up now. Nunia is on, doing a marathon. Okay, let's do that. Okay. Oh, Nunia is playing through Wintermute. So this is, he's playing through the story mode right now. Okay, so we're going to head over there. I'm going to wrap up, get some sleep. Good night, all. Take care, and we'll see you soon.